You don't really know much about it, do you? She's a trip.
America is in grave danger.
Ninja Scroll is one of the most popular anime of the 1990s. There is literally nothing I can say about it here that hasn't been said before. Ever since its 1995 English release on VHS, it has captured the imagination of many an otaku, and even those outside of the general anime sphere. We see films and shows clearly inspired by the ultraviolent classic all the time, and it's clear that a desire remains for more Ninja Scroll. Every few years, I see the idea of a sequel being thrown around, but even the director Yoshiaki Kawajiri has admitted the chances of a follow-up are slim to none. So naturally the next thing people love to bring up is the idea of a live-action remake. I personally fail to see the point here. There's nothing about Ninja Scroll that would be improved by remaking it in live action. And besides, in all technicality, live-action Ninja Scroll movies already exist. So what do I mean by that? Clearly there aren't a bunch of unknown Jubei Kibagami flicks that somehow no one has ever discovered besides me. That's true. But Ninja Scroll doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's an homage to the stories Kawajiri grew up loving, such as manga like The Legend of Kamui and Iga no Kagemaru. However, there was no bigger influence on Kawajiri than the works of historical fiction pulp novelist Futaro Yamada. We're going to talk about that. Hey everyone, this is Quinn Michael from Shaggy Turtle Studios, and welcome to the world of Ninpo-Cho. I'm going to go more into detail on Yamada's personal history in another video. What we need to know for this video is that he started out by writing mystery novels, which would lead to his discovery by famed mystery writer Ranpo Edogawa. But he really came into his own in 1959 with the publication of a book that was known as Koga Ninpo-Cho, or in English, the Koga Ninja Scrolls. It's a star-crossed lover's tale set against a battle royale backdrop. Or perhaps more simply, it's Romeo and Juliet with ninjas. Two tribes, sworn to hate the other. The Koga and the Iga. This hatred has lasted for centuries. However, the two future leaders of the clans have fallen for each other, hoping to unite their two clans and undo the damage caused. These hopes are shattered by a decree from the former shogun, pitting 10 ninja from each clan against each other in a death match to determine which of his grandsons will become the next ruler of Japan. What follows is an epic, tragic struggle to the death between ninjas with unnatural abilities and talents. This book is excellent in my opinion. It's well paced with just enough character development to help the fighters not feel simply like monsters and killers, but like actual people, which is very important and helps heighten the dramatic tension of the death matches in the book. Ostensibly, it's a story about how hate can only serve to destroy what we love, much like the Shakespearean classic. Although, you'll forgive me if I prefer the ninja version. By all accounts, this book was popular back in its release in 1959, and it would wind up launching a series known as Ninpo-Cho, translated officially to English as Ninja Scroll. The next novel, Edo Ninpo-Cho, would come out the very next year in 1960, and Yamada would keep writing these ninja novels consistently up to 1970, and even released some in the 90s, up to his death in 2001. These books are based in historical fiction, weaving in real historical events with fantastical mysticism and ninja conspiracies. They would also be somewhat controversial. Koga Ninpo-Cho contains some pretty graphic violence and some sexual content as well. But the series would quickly dive into some absolutely bonkers shit. But probably for that very same reason, the novels would also prove to be very popular, getting adapted into manga, TV, and film as early as 1963, with Ninja Tsukaikage Sho and the aforementioned Edo Ninpo-Cho. And of course, this series is a massive influence on Ninja Scroll. Even the Japanese title, Jubei Ninpo-Cho, is a direct callback. And it goes even further, lifting names and powers directly from the book. If you're a fan of Jubei's adventures, then you owe it to yourself to read one of its primary inspirations. Of course, as of the writing of this script, the only novel available in the series is the Koga Ninja Scrolls, so unless you read Japanese or French, how exactly will you get your fill? Come on, I know you aren't stupid. Now, unfortunately, not every one of these adaptations is available in English either, but there's still a decent amount that I've managed to scrape together, enough to make a video about here. I can't cover these in as much detail as I'd like, so this will be more of an overview of each. Maybe in the future I can do standalone videos on each entry if you guys would like to see that. I will also not be tackling these in release order. Rather, I want to approach them in a thematic order that best suits this video. As such, I think the best place to start is with what we've already discussed at length, the Koga Ninja Scrolls. For anime fans of a certain era, my description of the book might have sounded familiar. This is because in 2003, the book was adapted into a manga by Masaki Sagawa, called Basilisk, the Koga Ninja Scrolls. This was not the first time the book was adapted to manga form, but in 2005, it would be the first time the story made it to both the big and small screen. This anime is well loved by fans, and if you're looking for more Ninja Scroll style action, it's a great place to stop by. It's more of a romantic drama tragedy, while Jubei's journey is more of an action adventure, but there's plenty of ninja action and horror to go around here, which makes sense considering Ninja Scroll did take a big chunk of inspiration from this book, and in turn, this adaptation clearly takes some notes from Ninja Scroll itself. What you may not be familiar with is the live-action adaptation of Koga Ninpo-Cho released the same year. Known as Shinobi Heart Underblade, or simply Shinobi, this is a completely unrelated adaptation, separate from Basilisk. No clue why they dropped the Ninpo-Cho title entirely, though. Now, while Basilisk is a fairly accurate adaptation of the original novel, only really adding some additional bits of backstory, dialogue, and characterization to flesh out the episodes, Shinobi is extremely loose, really only sharing the basic plot and some characters. And even then, these characters have had their personalities and powers swapped around and altered. The cast of fighters has been cut in half, with only 5 combatants on each side, with one fighter, the scythe-wielding Chikuma Koshiro, switching sides from the Iga to the Koga entirely. And some pretty iconic scenes are absent too. This is acceptable though, since Shinobi is a theatrical release with a runtime that doesn't even reach 2 hours. And it comes out the other side as a rather entertaining flick. The fight scenes are kinetic and violent throughout the flick. Plenty of the good shit you want from a ninja showdown. Flying through the air, flipping and dodging all around, stabbings, limb slicing, decapitations, and using a variety of special and supernatural techniques to take each other out. It's a brisk pace too, focusing mainly on the action, but with some brief moments of characterization. And with the exception of some dated CGI, this movie is absolutely gorgeous. The set and costume design is a treat for the eyes, and I can't tell you how much I love the autumnal setting, leading to striking scenery of colorful leaves and dying trees that perfectly complement the tragic deathmatch unfolding within. Honestly, more so than any other flick I'll be highlighting today, this is the one I can recommend to a somewhat general audience, as long as they're okay with a couple of decapitations. If you're a fan of action movies, kung fu flicks, anime, tokusatsu, and of course ninjas, I say give this one a look. course, Ninja Scroll itself isn't for everyone. It's grotesquely violent, it's openly sexual, and these are qualities pulled directly from the source inspirations, as the novels would dive deeper and deeper into the deep end as they went on. And as such, the various adaptations would follow suit, even in the early days. An example of said early days can be found in a pair of films both released in the 60s, 1964's Kunoichi Ninpo and 1968's Shinobi no Manji. Pretty directly translated as female ninja magic, Kunoichi Ninpo is the tale of Princess Sen's attempt to preserve the bloodline of her late husband, Toyotomi Hideyori. She was infertile, so instead, 5 ninja handmaidens now carry the future of the bloodline of the second great unifier of Japan. This doesn't really sit well with the shogun, Tokugawa Ieyasu, seeing it as a threat, and so he orders Hattori Hanzo and a sect of Iga ninja to assassinate the Kunoichi. This leads to plenty of bizarre scenes of ninja magic, such as ninja body swapping, ninja mind control, ninja shadow grabbing, ninja gas attack, ninja snow that is actually flowers, death by snoo snoo multiple times, sexual hypnotism via a bodhisattva statue, and transferring a fetus from one woman to another via ninja magic, with commentary provided by the ghosts of Sanada Yukimura and Sasuke Saratobi. And bear in mind, this is all part of basically a big old ninja abortion attempt. And the best part, the film takes itself completely seriously. It's a professional work with great cinematography and some striking shots. The ninja magic is memorable in its own bizarre way too, and I found myself genuinely invested in seeing if Toyotomi's successor would be brought to term by the end of the film, much to my surprise. I actually think I enjoyed it a little bit more than Shinobi no Manji. Okay, I just realized I'm gonna have to address this, but to be very, very clear, that is a manji, not a swastika. The Nazis appropriated this Buddhist imagery for use in their own campaign. The Nazi swastika is inverted and tilted on its side. This is a manji. Look it up. Don't be an idiot. Also known as Ninja's Mark, Secret of the Philfote, this film is about a plot to prevent Shogun Tokugawa Iemitsu from siring an heir. From a ninja abortion to ninja cock-blocking. This is some life I lead. One of the 3 ninja clans serving as security has gone traitor, and it's up to former Yagyu Shinkage student Shinoha Toma, armed with an anti-shinobi sword that can detect when ninja magic is used, to unravel the conspiracy. What follows is an hour and a half of absolutely bizarre ninja action and eroticism. You will see women with fish legs, more ninja body swapping, plenty of blood spray, a woman named Kageroi with poison powers that activate when aroused, and man, now there's 3 of them I know. A Kunoichi-induced wet dream, and you'll even hear a fish squeak for help.
What the fuck?
You also get to see some really beautiful and creative cinematography and some fun ninja action scenes and sword fights. There's a kinda half-baked romance between Kageroi and Toma, but other than that, I don't really have much to complain about here. These films are classified as Pinkulaiga in Japan, basically erotic thrillers. This might conjure up an image in your head of films that are far more explicit than these two actually are. While there are plenty of sexual situations, some even grotesque in nature, it doesn't really go much farther than implication and commentary. While this is likely due to Japan's strict censorship policies on pornographic content, I do want to give credit to the directors for the way they shot these films, lending the bizarre proceedings an air of class in all honesty, which is honestly really impressive given that this is early on in both directors' careers, with Norifumi Suzuki directing Shinobi no Manji, and Sadao Nakajima being a first-time director on Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho. Both went on to long careers afterwards. Suzuki would direct films like Shogun's Ninja and Roaring Fire, as well as a popular 70s film series known as Taraku Yaro, or The Truck Guys, while Nakajima would become known for his future Yakuza and Jidegeki period piece films. He even went on to direct another Ninpo-Cho film adaptation the same year as Kunoichi Ninpo, known as The Spying Sorceress, which I was unable to cover for this video. Now, do you want to see what happens when you remove all subtlety from these films? Like, yeah, okay, those films were technically classified as erotica, but like we saw, the content within was pretty tame for such a label. Mostly thanks to their status as theatrical releases in the 1960s. But by the 1980s, the home video market had begun, giving rise to the direct-to-video format. Anime viewers will be familiar with the OVA, or original video animation, a format of anime released direct-to-video that was often far more violent and sexual in content than anything a theatrical film or TV show could get away with. This format would begin to fall out of favor once the bubble economy burst. The money for lavish DTV productions just wasn't there anymore. And the money wasn't exactly there for theatrical releases either. Big-budget film studios were seriously struggling to recoup the cost of their films at this time. Toei, however, would find inspiration in the success of the OVA format, and in 1989 created the V Cinema label. Low-budget, direct-to-video productions that, similar to OVAs, weren't subject to the same censorship standards as film and TV. If you're a fan of Japanese sci-fi and fantasy films, you've quite likely seen a V Cinema flick, or at least an OV, since V Cinema is a Toei trademark. These direct-to-video productions have a better reputation in Japan than DTV film often gets in the West, with some producers expressly choosing the format due to the comparative lack of censorship. But make no mistake, there was some trashy stuff too. Speaking of that, starting in 1990, King Records would begin a line of original videos known as Super Jirageki. Basically, low-budget period dramas with erotic elements. And specifically, they would begin a sub-series known as Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho, also known as Female Ninja Magic Chronicles. They would make one a year up to 1996, and then a final entry in 1998, each adapting a different Futaro Yamada story, resulting in 7 movies of what could basically be described as ninja softcore comedies. I have not watched all of these yet. Several of them don't even have an English version available, official or otherwise, but I've sampled a bunch for this video, and I feel pretty confident in offering my thoughts. These are, indeed, trashy exploitation flicks, with a lot of nudity and low-budget special effects. They're far more exploitative than what the 60s showed. And yet, I don't get the impression that these films are meant to be arousing. These films are not sexy. They are goofy as shit. And the ninja magic on display here is easily at its most absurd. The first film is itself a remake of Kunoichi Ninpo, but lacks all of the artistry and subtlety of the 1964 film. It includes some of the same insane ninpos we saw in that film, with a particularly hilarious I can't even say it straight. A particularly hilarious portrayal of the fetus transfer technique. It needs to be seen to be believed. But it also throws in some of its own insanity. My personal favorite being the one where a Kunoichi shoots bubbles out from under her skirt that trap a group of attacking ninja inside of them, reducing them to grown men crying like infants. This is the sort of crazy nonsense you can expect from every film in the series. There's certainly entertainment value to be had here, but only in the absurdity of the films and effects. The first 4 films have English subtitles available, although I've only watched 1 and 4 out of these myself. 5 is completely untranslated, but I did watch it raw to confirm that, yeah, this shit is crazy! Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho 6, Ninja Tsukekage Show, however, is a special case. I could not find subtitles for this movie anywhere, leading me to believe that there aren't any. But this film does have an English release, English dubbed, only on VHS, released by our pals at Manga UK as Lady Ninja Reflections of Darkness. However, While I can find $40 to $50 eBay listings for this tape, there are no rips of this to be found online. Like, this isn't necessarily lost media, since the tapes are clearly still out there, but man, this has got to be at least lost media adjacent. Somebody's gotta rip this for the sake of preservation. I can only imagine how hilarious this dub might be. Making matters even more confusing is that in 2011, a brand new Kunoichi movie was released, being yet another adaptation of Ninja Kage Show, which, might I remind you, was the first story of Futaro Yamada's to be adapted into a movie back in 1963, and no, I can't find that film either, or I would have talked about it. This film also has an English release, and this one is on DVD, as Lady Ninja Reflections of Darkness. As you can imagine, this makes trying to find the 1996 version even harder. Hey, so I needed footage of this movie to show during this segment. I had not actually watched Ninja Kage Show before. And I just saw what is easily the most batshit insane Ninpo in the entire franchise. Like any adaptation. Bar none. I can't show you this. My video, my fucking channel would get nuked, okay? However, I will play you some snippets of when I was watching this scene. What the fuck did I just see? I cannot show that shit in the video! Oh my god! Is she inflating his penis? Are those balls? What the fuck? And they popped. Why do I watch this shit? I cannot stress enough, this has an English dub. Somebody, please, help me out here. I gotta see this shit. I gotta.
Okay. Makashinasai.
Yeah, the 2011 film. I'm gonna jump ahead a bit here, but this is the most recent flick we'll be covering in this video, so it's worth stopping to note. This was made as a tribute film in honor of 10 years since Futaro Yamada's passing. And if honoring him via one of these Kunoichi flicks seems weird to you, then I implore you to at least use a translation app on the Wikipedia synopsis for at least a couple of his books. Yamada wrote some absolutely wild shit. It's also actually kinda good. Okay, so it's still got some copious nudity and bizarre ninja sex magic, with my favorite being the poison breast milk needles. I refuse to elaborate. But it's all wrapped around a pretty engaging and morally gray plot involving the assassination of the Shogun's former concubines, in order to preserve his public image, with some thought even given to the idea of the moral ramifications of being an assassin. Yeah, it kinda clashes with the silly ninja magic, but I was legitimately engaged while watching this one. Surprisingly so. If this sounds fun, I'll cautiously recommend it, just, you know, ninja titties. But like I said, we've jumped out of order here. What about the final film of the original Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho line? Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho Yagyu Gaiden, or simply known as Kunoichi Lady Ninja in its Western release, is an adaptation of 1964's Yagyu Ninpo-Cho, marking the first of what would eventually be known as Futaro Yamada's Jubei trilogy, which would be followed up by Oboro Ninpo-Cho the same year, and finished over 3 decades later in 1992 with Yagyu Jubei Dies. Each of these stories is pretty standalone, with the only connecting thread being the legendary swordsman Yagyu Jubei Mitsuyoshi, who stars in all 3 books. I'll talk more about the novels next time, and that is a promise, by the way. We will be talking about Oboro Ninpo-Cho in the next video. Please stay tuned for that. But for now, let's focus on this first entry. The Yagyu Ninja Scrolls is the tale of 7 women from the clan of Hori, sole survivors of the horrific massacre carried out by the 7 Spears of Aizu under the orders of their horrific daimyo, Akinari Kato, who had taken to abducting women to his stronghold for his perverse personal pleasure. He had been spurned by the rejection of Ochie, daughter of the leader of the Hori clan, leading to the massacre at the Tokeiji nunnery where the women were hiding, only stopped by none other than Senhime, played by the same actress as the 1991 Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho film. And she's not the only actress you might recognize in this either, as Ochie, our leading lady, is played by none other than Yuko Moriyama, who some of you might be familiar with as Iria from the awesome Zeiram films. That wasn't the only time she appeared in ancient Japan either, since she was also in the massively underrated Moon Over Tau. And it won't be her last appearance in a Futaro Yamada flick either. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Anyways, in retaliation for the massacre at the temple, Senhime decides that these women will have their revenge on the Kato clan. But they're going to need some training. They're going to need a teacher. And that teacher's going to be Yagyu Jubei. Because of course it is. Because Yagyu Jubei's the shit. He's played by the director of the film too, which is pretty funny. Hiroshi Ozawa has way too many credits for me to list here. They're mostly Japan only. I personally find it interesting that he was in the 80s live-action adaptations of the delinquent action comedy manga Bebop High School, but modern viewers might recognize him as the voice of Daisaku Kuze in Sega's Yakuza franchise. I don't know who that is, but if you play Yakuza, he's the voice of this character. This guy. I don't know. Moving on. Much like Oboro Ninpo-Cho, I will be discussing Jubei another time. All you need to know right now is that much like the rest of the series, the historical fiction is based upon fact, with Jubei being one of the most revered swordsmen and samurai in Japanese history. There were also rumors and myths that he was trained in the arts of ninjutsu, and it is in these arts that he is going to train the women in, so that they may have their revenge. Yagyu Gaiden takes a much-needed turn from erotic comedy period drama into an action film. Most of it's taken up by fight scenes, complete with copious blood spray, copious swordplay, and copious wire fu. That's not to say the erotic elements are gone, mind you. This is still a direct-to-video film, after all. But, compared to the previous films, it's kind of pulled back. Kind of. Which is strange, since the manga adaptation of Yagyu Ninja Scrolls by Masaki Sagawa is chock full of casual nudity, which is probably why it was never given the Basilisk anime treatment. The manga version seems to be more accurate to the original novel from the research I've been able to do. I'd give you a visual comparison, but man, I am not doing all that censoring. Besides, the important difference between the movie and the manga is that the movie is batshit insane.
May you burn in the flames of hell!
Red Phoenix magic!
I mean, you've been paying attention to the video this far. And remember, this is part of the Female Ninja Magic Chronicles. There is plenty of ridiculous shit to match everything else we've talked about, with the girls learning ninja magic that is absolutely not in Sagawa's manga adaptation. Like a chick shooting lightning out of her tits, which I can't show you, or a naked ninja kamikaze attack, which I can't show you, or a guy that tears his eyes out to summon demons, which I can show you.
I got my eye on you!
But honestly, I don't even want to spoil everything in this movie, because there's a few moments that I can't show you that have to be seen to be believed. If you're going to check out a Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho film, this is easily the best one. Don't get me wrong, it's still full of nudity and sexual content, bonkers ninja magic, cheap special effects, and blood spray, and it even has a hilarious English dub done by some voice actors you might even recognize.
They're having sex! Ugh. Hey, what?
It's Yaku Yubei.
I hate you! Ah!
But you also get all the crazy ninja action you'd want in a low-budget ninja flick like this. You even get some concrete connections to Ninja Scroll, not only with Jubei, but with Takuan Soho, the real-life Buddhist monk who inspired Ninja Scroll's Dakuan. It's trash, but it's fun trash. Still, I'd rather not end this video by talking about direct-to-video ninja softcore flicks, you know? So I've been saving my favorite of these flicks for last. A theatrical release from 1982 that I think fits the tone of Ninja Scroll better than any other flick in this video, while also possibly being the most ridiculous one. Iga Ninpo-Cho, also known as Ninja Wars, Death of the Ninja, and Black Magic Wars. What, did you think we were going to get out of this video about one of these multi-title messes? This is a ninja video? You really should have seen this coming. I'm going to get this out of the way first. Out of all the movies I've discussed today, this one might have the most bonkers plot of all of them. It's a revenge plot, but so much happens around that revenge plot that I find it hard to summarize it succinctly like the other movies. So, here I go. This film takes place during the Sengoku Jidai, the Warring States period. This was a time when the various warlords of the country fought for territory and power. During this time, rumors of a magician illusionist circulated, who appeared before notable daimyo such as Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Akechi Mitsuhide, and supposedly even before Ieyasu Tokugawa himself. These rumors are unsubstantiated, and there's plenty of debate as to whether or not this man even existed at all. His name was Kashin Koji. However, one daimyo that Kashin was especially associated with was Hisahide Danjo Matsunaga, a man known historically as one of Japan's three great villains. So, quite fittingly, the pair play our primary antagonists in this film, with Danjo becoming infatuated with the wife of his lord Miyoshi, and Kashin appearing to offer his assistance, foreseeing that whoever wins the heart of Lady Ukyo will rule the world. To this end, Kashin enlists 5 of his disciples, ninjas disguised as monks with the hearts of demons, each specializing in a different technique, and all versed in the unholy creation of an aphrodisiac born from tears of defilement. I feel like maybe I should stop to once again acknowledge that, much like Ninja Scroll itself, these films are not meant for everyone. There's some pretty gnarly stuff in the film, although much like with Ninja Scroll, I would actually make the argument that it's not being done for titillating or glorification purposes, because the scenes in and of themselves are very disturbing. And you could argue that's pointless shock value. I would disagree, but if I'm here arguing about that all day, well, we'll be here all day, so I'm gonna move on with the rest of the video. This horrific act is what leads to our revenge plot, as our protagonist Jotaro Fuefuki sees his beloved Kagaribi stolen from him, ultimately killed to be used in this devilish plot, leaving Jotaro to avenge her and protect Lady Ukyo, whom is secretly Kagaribi's illegitimate sister. Man, can you hear how convoluted that gets towards the end? I was attempting to abridge that. And there's even more, because this film, like all of the others, has some absolutely bizarre ninja magic, courtesy of the Devil Monks. Some of them have comparatively normal abilities, such as super strength and defying gravity. One of them shoots these little needles out from his glove and later his eyes, which is a little weird. And hey, this looks familiar. But man, nothing compares to the jutsu of Suijibo, this curly-headed guy who spits vomit everywhere. You might think it's acid, but that would make too much sense. It's an immobilizing agent that solidifies upon contact. It's used early in the film to incapacitate Jotaro. And yet, that's nothing compared to the art of Kokubo, who is an expert in necromancy. Which isn't the weird part. No, the weird part is how it factors into the creation of the love potion. See, Kagaribi attempts to escape the devils and their evil plan, but when that fails, she takes her own head with the use of a technique, choosing death over such a fate. Unfortunately, this doesn't stop them, as site user Ratsetsu beheads one of Danjo's consorts, Isaribi, in a rather gory display, so that Kokubo may swap their heads, creating a victim with the heart of Kagaribi and a monster wearing her face named Onibi. Even the ending of the movie is a giant mindfuck. I don't understand. I've watched this movie multiple times, okay? I have rewatched it several times, both for casual viewing purposes and for the creation of this video. I love this movie, but the ending just makes no sense. It doesn't. I've tried to understand it multiple times. End of Evangelion has nothing on this shit. I get Evangelion. This shit leaves me scratching my head every time, but I love it. I don't know, I think it's trying to be profound. Maybe it fails, but at least it looks cool. And honestly, that is a big reason why I love this movie. I don't understand it. A lot of it is still a mystery to me, even after multiple viewings. But there's a lot for me to love about this film besides the screwy plot. For one, it's a gorgeous movie. probably its strongest aspect. There's lavish sets and great costumes. Everyone in this movie looks so damn cool. It's like they stepped right out of the pages of a manga. Well, mostly. The special effects are also well done, if a little cheesy, but let's be real, you are not going to take a vomiting devil ninja monk seriously, no matter how good the effect might look. You know I'm right about that. The gore effects and wire work are exactly what you would want out of a film like this too, with a good couple of red geysers and a Fulci-approved eye gouge in there for good measure. Okay, I couldn't think of a good place to bring this up in the script, so I do want to talk about this briefly. I would be shocked if Taito's 1985 classic, The Legend of Kage, wasn't at least a little inspired by Iga Ninpo-Cho, at the very least in visuals. The Devil Monks Yobo and Yojibo are a dead ringer for me, and I can't be the only one who thinks this looks similar. I'm sure there were other inspirations, The Legend of Kamui comes to mind, but man, I cannot be the only one who sees this, right? The music is kick-ass too. Plenty of symphonic music done in that Japanese style, but every so often an 80s electric guitar kicks in to liven up the score, and I can't help but love that. I'm a sucker for this. More Jidaigeki fantasy movies should have electric guitar. Anachronism be damned. And last, but certainly not least, this film has a killer cast. The heroic lead Jotaro is played by Hiroyuki Sanada, and if you watch these types of movies, you definitely know who he is. But for more mainstream audiences, you might recognize him from the original Ringu movies, Rush Hour 3, The Wolverine, John Wick 4, and he was even Scorpion in the newest Mortal Kombat flick. This wasn't his only time in a Futaro Yamada flick either, as I personally believe his casting in Iga Ninpo-Cho was influenced by his role in the previous year's Makai Tensho. Speaking of that film, another famous actor that appears in Iga Ninpo-Cho as a supporting actor is none other than Sonny freaking Chiba. I'm not even going to go over his credits. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you've heard of Sonny Chiba. In this film, he plays Yagyu Shinzaemon, grandfather of the legendary Jubei. And while he looks a little ridiculous with his giant mustache, he's every bit as badass as a member of the Yagyu clan ought to be. I do find this casting interesting, because one of Chiba's most notable recurring roles is that of Shinzaemon's most famous descendant, playing Jubei in multiple TV shows and movies, including the previously mentioned Makai Tensho. And if you're an Onimusha fan, you might be more familiar with Shinzaemon than you think, since he's the protagonist of the second game, although he goes by the alias Jubei in the game. Akira Nakao and Noriko Watanabe, who played Danjo and Ukyo respectively, both appeared in some of the 2000s era Godzilla films, and they both do fantastically here as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight Mikio Narita's turn as the hermit sorcerer Kashin Koji, playing a suitably kooky yet creepy figure, whose appearance is always heralded by foul winds and fierce lightning. All of these elements combine to make Iga Ninpo-Cho my favorite film based on Yamada's works featured in this video. It's definitely a weird movie. Like, I can't deny that. This is a weirdo movie, but it's my kind of weirdo movie, where you just don't even know what's gonna happen the first time you watch it, man. It's worth a watch for that alone. And there you have it, a selection of movies based on the novels that helped to inspire Ninja Scroll. Now, this is by no means definitive. There were plenty of movies I couldn't find a way to watch for this video, which is a shame, because I would have loved to have covered more of the 60s films, like Ninja Tsukekage Show from 1963, which was the very first film, and Edo Ninpo-Cho also seemed kind of interesting, but I just can't find a way to watch these movies even raw, which is unfortunate, but we'll make do with it. Now, adaptations of Yamada's work are by no means dead either. In 2018, a 12-episode TV series was released called Kunoichi Ninpo-Cho Hotarubi, and literally just last year, in 2024, there was a brand new theatrical film based on Yamada's novel Hakenden, which is a partial retelling of the Japanese classic epic, while also being a fictional biography of its author Bakken Takezawa. And it's my hope that we continue to see not only adaptations, but stories inspired by his work for decades to come. Which, if you think about it, it's kind of already happened, because the legacy of these novels lives on through all the works that Ninja Scroll itself inspired. It's an interesting lineage to look at, you know? This does leave one final question for the video. Why do I care? Why do I care so much about the legacy of such bizarre, violent, perverse, and even just trashy pulp stories? Well, it's because they're important. No, really. Maybe they're not important in, like, the grand scheme of things, but when it comes to the pop culture depiction of ninja, they're important. More so than simply being the inspiration for Ninja Scroll, these books are the backbone of modern ninja fiction. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, but I promise you, without these stories, especially the original Koga Ninpo-Cho, we would not have the modern pop culture image of ninja, which could be a good or a bad thing depending on who you ask. To say Yamada's ninja are historically inaccurate would be something of an understatement. These are not spies, or survivalists, or even assassins. Yamada's ninja are superhuman. Sorcerers bordering on demonic, trained in mystic arts with no worldly explanation. This was not the first time ninja were portrayed as such. I'm not claiming that. As a matter of fact, Yamada was almost certainly inspired by Edo-era folklore about ninja, like the Legend of Jiraiya. And he also admitted to drawing inspiration from legendary historical fantasy epics, like the aforementioned Nanso Satomi Hakenden, and the Chinese epic known as the Water Margin, or in Japan, Suikoden. However, a simple fact really brings all of this into perspective. It was the eve of the 1960s. The entire last decade and a half of Japanese history had been about rebuilding after a staggering loss and unconditional surrender. To say a cultural reset had taken place would not be inaccurate at all. The 50s and 60s would be the decades that created modern Japanese culture with new ideas and icons that carry on to this day. And the Ninpo-Cho series is absolutely one of those. It changed the way pop culture saw ninja. In the same way as Yamada was inspired, his work would inspire future generations to make their own tales of supernatural ninja. I can give you several specific examples right now. Let's take Naruto. Regardless of your personal opinion, it's easily the most famous ninja anime in recent times. It takes lots of inspiration from all sorts of ninja sources. Even the aforementioned Jiraiya is a fairly big part of the show. But it also takes direct influence from Koga Ninpo-Cho with its genetically mutated Kekai Genkai techniques as stated in interviews. And I'd be willing to bet that dojutsus are directly inspired by Genosuke and Oboro's powers as well. But it's not just Naruto. Battle shonen anime in general owes a debt to Koga Ninpo-Cho. And you don't just have to take my word for it. Baku Yume Makura, writer of the Garoden novels and Onmyoji films, said on the subject of Koga Ninpo-Cho that it is no exaggeration to say that it is the ancestor of similar Japanese manga animation works, and it is an extremely important work for the Japanese entertainment world. And yeah, I can't really refute that. This book really does seem to be the first modern Japanese story to feature a large-scale deathmatch where superhuman individuals face off with each other, using a unique ability that they specialize in. For all intents and purposes, this book is the grandfather of all battle anime. I can also give you several specific examples in video games of Ninpo-Cho inspiration, such as the 1986 run and gun by Nichibutsu, Ninja Emaki. The primary inspiration for this kind of obscure arcade game was actually the 1983 film Legend of a Samurai, an adaptation of Hakenden by the same director as Iga Ninpo-Cho. But there's definitely a hint of reference in the Japanese title of the game, Yoma Ninpo-Cho. And while I can't confirm this myself, a friend of mine was even reminded of the 3D Ninja Gaiden games when I was talking about Koga Ninja Scrolls with them, likening the clash between clans to the war between the Hayabusa and Black Spider clans. And while this is only partially related, man, the Ninja Scroll influence in Ragebound is so obvious. Like, that's just Jubei. Y'all see it, right? I'm not crazy. You see this. But sure, that might be too speculatory and old school for you, so how about this? Sekiro's Shadows Die Twice was released in 2017 by FromSoft, and was a smash hit. And much in the same way Dark Souls was partially inspired by Berserk, series creator Hidetaka Miyazaki confirmed in an interview that Sekiro was indeed inspired by Futaro Yamada's works, including something that we'll get to later. How about the Neo Geo fighting game by ADK Ninja Masters? Or to use its full Japanese title, Ninja Masters Hao Ninpo-Cho. The influence is just laid bare in the title, as well as having an art style heavily resembling Ninja Scroll itself. This is a highly underrated game, mainly just wanted to pay it some lip service here. It's awesome. And speaking of Neo Geo fighting games, Samurai Shodown, a series people know takes influences from Ninja Scroll, but it runs even deeper than that with a very specific reference serving as the plot of the game that kicked off the whole series. A reference to a story that I did not cover in this video. Yeah, alright, it's time to stop dancing around that. This was not the video I had originally planned to make. As a matter of fact, this whole project actually spawned from me wanting to learn about everything I could about an infamous anime from the 90s. One that was misleadingly marketed to look like a follow-up to Ninja Scroll. One of my favorite anime, in fact. But as I started writing the script for that video, I launched into a tangent about Yamada's work, and I just kept writing, and writing, and writing. You do not want to know how long I've been working on this video. And yet, here I am at the end, leaving it kind of incomplete. And that's because I can't just write a short segment on this story. It's too important, too famous, too influential to be a footnote in another video. Makai Tensho needs its own spotlight. My work is not yet done. But I also couldn't justify just glossing over everything else in that video that I wanted to make originally. And if you've made it this far into the video, I really hope you can see why. Because I hope I made it obvious that I love this stuff. And my hope for this video is that I get to share that love with people watching. And maybe even show you something you might love too. So the next time you see someone lamenting the lack of more Ninja Scroll, why not dig a little deeper and see the stories that made Ninja Scroll what it is? If you're anything like me, not only will it help you to appreciate a classic that much more, you may just find a new favorite all your own. Hey everyone, I just got done recording the whole script as I'm writing this part. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. This video has been in production for a while. It took a really long time for me to actually finish the script, but hey, I did all the recording as I went, and I just finished it, and it feels great to know that I'm going to have this out on time, because I really wanted to have this done by the end of the month. And it's kind of fortunate that it happens too, because I didn't plan this. But due to the new Ninja Gaiden game coming out, I'm doing an event over on my Twitch channel called Ninjuly Gaiden. A friend suggested that name, and yeah, I'm going to be playing all the old school Ninja Gaiden games that I can this month on my Twitch channel. So I'd recommend going and checking that out if you're interested, because you'll get to hear me jaw on about ninja nonsense all month long over on my Twitch channel. And you won't have to wait for a giant scripted video like this. Beyond that, really just, if you sat through the whole video, thank you for doing that, because this was definitely a very long-winded ramble about a topic that I'm passionate about, and I hope you'll come back for when I cover Makai Tensho, because if you thought I was passionate about this, Makai Tensho is actually my favorite Futaro Yamada story. It's the one that kicked off this entire journey, so I would really appreciate it if you all came back when I finish that. I don't know when it'll be done, but I want to make sure that video comes out this year and that I don't spend like a year and a half trying to do one video again. I'm hoping this gets me back in the gear of doing regular YouTube content, because I got a lot of ideas for things I want to cover. More movies, more classic stories, more video games. That Double Dragon video will happen someday, I promise. So yeah, that's about it. If you want to know more, follow me on my Twitch, keep an eye out here. And like it or not, this has been Quinn Michael from Shaggy Turtle Studios, and like I have always said, like it or not, I'll be back next time.